Life is a sci-fi horror that tells the story of a crew of astronauts aboard the International Space Station who, after discovering the first signs of life on Mars, ultimately end up in a battle of survival against this alien creature that threatens their existence. Now, going into Life, I was actually really looking forward to checking this out because I'm a big sci-fi fan, even though this is more of a sci-fi horror, and I'm not that big of a horror guy. I do really like the concept, and obviously Alien's probably one of my favourite films as well, and this is obviously kind of very similar to something like Alien, so I was really interested in checking this film out because it's an original film. It's not a prequel, a sequel, a recall, a reboot, a remake. It's pretty much the only film playing in mainstream multiplex cinemas right now which isn't a big franchise movie or property, so I thought I'd go out and support this film because I really wanted to check it out, and I was really hoping that I would enjoy it, and I was really hoping that it would be a good film. But unfortunately, guys, for me, Life wasn't very good at all. Now, before I get into my review of the film, this may end up becoming a bit of a rant. I may end up getting a bit heated here and dropping some spoilers, so be warned, I might end up going into some spoilers. I'll try not to, but I have to preface the review with this, is that I didn't hate this film. I don't think it was a terrible film. I think it was a competently made film. I didn't hate it, but the film did do a lot of things that just really bugged me and got on my nerves to the point where I couldn't enjoy myself. I just kept getting sucked out of the film and it kept bugging me and annoying me. So unfortunately, although I don't think this was a terrible film, it just did so many things over and over again that constantly bugged me and got on my nerves, and as a result it really ruined the experience for me. Now, before I go into negatives, I first want to give some positives here because, as I said, I don't hate this film. I don't think it's a terrible film, not by any means. There were a lot of things I did like about this film. For one, I like the fact that the crew was very kind of diverse. It was a very kind of multicultural crew in terms of it represented the whole globe. There was people from the USA, UK, China, Russia. I really liked that. It was like all these different countries and the whole world working together. These different astronauts that represented all these different countries across the world all working together on this mission in the space station. I really liked that. I also really like the actors in this film. It's a great cast. We've got Jake Gyllenhaal, Rebecca Ferguson, Ryan Reynolds. Really great cast in this film. Unfortunately though, they didn't really get that much to do. I did kind of like the characters. They were fleshed out and developed to an extent, and then we got a sense of kind of who these guys are as people and what they really like and how they're all kind of different from one another and how they all kind of feel differently and react differently to different kind of situations. But for the most part, it was kind of surface level kind of depth, if you will. I mean, it wasn't as bad as something like Kong, where they were kind of almost caricatures. They weren't even like real people. This, it did feel like they were real people. It's just that the actors didn't really get a lot to work with, but I did really like the actors in the film, and I think they all delivered really good performances. And another thing I really liked about this film was that it was like a full-on horror film. I didn't know if it was going to be that horrific, you know. I thought it was just going to be more of just a generic kind of space sci-fi film, but it really went for it as far as the horror is concerned, you know. So if anyone wants to just see a really kind of balls to the wall horror film in space, I think you'll really enjoy this film, because it basically is like a horror film but in a space station with an alien. So it's kind of like an Alien kind of thing, if you will. It's nowhere near as good as Alien. It kind of it's trying to be like an alien. It's kind of more like Prometheus, and I really like Prometheus, but you know, if you're going expecting something like Alien, you might be a little underwhelmed. But it is that kind of similar kind of thing, you know. It's like these guys trapped in a kind of confined, isolated location with this kind of monster hunting them down, so it is basically like Alien. So yeah, and if you really want just a straight up full-on horror movie in space with this kind of monster alien thing hunting them down, I think you'll really enjoy this film. That's basically what it was. It really went for it as far as the horror is concerned. It really was quite brutal and horrific and violent and gory and bloody in parts, which I really wasn't expecting, but they really went for it, so credit to them for actually really going for it as far as the horror aspect was concerned. However, aside from the things that I did like about the film, there are so many things this film did that really bugged me and got my nerves. For one, the characters in this film, I didn't necessarily dislike the characters, but at every single given opportunity, the characters are making just the most stupid, dumb, idiotic choices. And I get this is a horror film, and I get that the characters need to make these kind of choices to advance the plot, but there's some horror films out there that don't do that, you know. It's just the bad horror films, just the lazily written horror films that just make the characters do these stupid things so they can try and advance the plot and so the monster can get to them and hunt them down. It's like, really? I mean, this was written by the writers of Deadpool. I expected kind of much better things, because Deadpool was a really well written film, but with this film, I didn't know what was going on. It's the reason why I don't like horror films. And obviously not all horror films are badly written, not all horror films are kind of ridden with cliches and are really generic and stereotypical, but with this film it really was a representation of what I dislike most about horror, and that at every single opportunity these characters are making the most stupid, dumb, idiotic choices that are putting them in danger. And whenever characters are getting attacked and are getting killed, you can't really feel for them, because you're like, well, it was your stupidity that got you in that position and got you killed. As I mentioned, it's kind of like Prometheus in a way, in that there's that scene in Prometheus we all know where those two scientists get themselves killed by that alien snake thing because they're just, playing around for it and they're asking to be killed. But with Prometheus, I can let it slide because it was just those two characters in that one scene, so I can give it a pass a bit. In this film, it's pretty much every character are doing things like that throughout the entirety of the film, and it just got on my nerves, because every single time I was starting to get invested and I was starting to enjoy myself and really get into the film, the characters would make yet another stupid, dumb, idiotic choice. I'm like, why would you do that? And the alien in this film was really cool. That's another thing I really liked, actually. The design of the alien was a really cool looking monster. It wasn't like something you've seen before. It starts off more like a kind of squid octopus kind of thing, and it evolves into this really cool looking kind of unique creature that we've never seen before, and was plant-like in a way. And I love the creature, and it's like they've got this really intelligent alien. So the characters don't need to be making stupid choices to help the alien, essentially, because the alien's smart enough and is doing well enough on its own. Yet at every single opportunity they're almost undermining the intelligence of the alien, because the alien's story, if you will, is advancing, not necessarily solely because of the alien's intelligence, but because of the human stupidity. Every single time the alien advances, it's because they do something stupid which lets it back in the spaceship or lets it into another room. I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, they're supposed to be intelligent professionals, like astronauts, and I could maybe give it a pass if it was not taking itself too seriously. Like something like Kong, it's a big, fun, dumb, silly monster movie, so you can kind of give it a pass of it. In this film, it starts off in a kind of semi-serious way. It's like it's almost kind of like a realistic world, like the astronauts in the International Space Station. It's set in a real world. It's more serious and grounded. But then when all the stuff with the aliens starts going on, it's like, are we supposed to take this seriously now? These characters doing these things, like, I don't understand. They're meant to be intelligent, or they're meant to be professionals. Are you really expecting us to take this serious when the characters are making these stupid, dumb, idiotic choices? And it just really got my nerves, because as I said, they just kept doing it over and over again. And at every single opportunity I was like, what are you doing? Like, they had so many opportunities to kill the alien in this film, where the alien was isolated, the alien was trapped. And they could have actually done something about the alien, or even kind of eliminated it. But then they kept, unwittingly letting it back in, or letting it into another room, letting it back in the ship, leaving the ship, opening something up, letting it back in. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are they making these stupid, dumb choices? I get they're in this situation with an alien, and I've never been in this situation like this before, but a lot of them are kind of very level-headed and serious and are chilled. They're not freaking out. So I'm like, why are you making these stupid, dumb choices? They're almost making it easy for the alien. The alien's like this intelligent creature, but the stupidity of the humans is almost kind of making it easier for the alien. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, it's only really one issue, but it was such a big thing for me that really just ruined the film for me, essentially. And I may veer into spoilers here slightly, to be warned, but the ending of this film I have to touch upon, because I was starting to get a little bit more on board with it as it progressed, kind of. Although that being said, if you do like the horror aspect of this film, it kind of basically becomes an action movie in the last 20 minutes, which I enjoyed. But then people who really like the horror part of it, and I did like that, would kind of be a bit sucked out, because you're like, well, hang on a minute, you were going for like a full-on horror movie vibe, and now it's suddenly becoming like an action thriller. It's like, okay. And I was starting to get a bit on board with the film. I was like, okay, this is kind of working for me now. And then the ending of the film, the so-called twist, I'm guessing it was supposed to be a twist, but it was the most kind of unsurprising, obvious twist I think I've ever seen. The whole film, they're trying to stop the alien from getting down to Earth. And the humans on Earth even go as far as to kind of sending another ship up there to push them out into space, because they desperately don't want the alien to get to Earth. They even though, they don't want to put anyone in harm's way. They're like, I'm sorry, we can't take that risk. We need to get that alien as far away from Earth as we possibly can. But yet, it ends up going back down to Earth. I'm like, what? And they try to do this kind of switcheroo thing between these two pods. Like, we think one's taking the alien away and one's going back down to Earth, and it's so obvious that they've switched places. And maybe if it was better executed and more effectively handled, it would be more surprising. But it's such a long wait and build up to who's in that ship that's crash landed on Earth. It's so obvious. If anyone is actually surprised by the fact that that's the alien in that pod that landed on Earth, then I seriously don't understand, because it was the most obvious twist. Like, I could see it coming from a mile away, and I was desperately hoping, please don't go the route of, oh, they've switched over and this is the aliens come down to Earth now. Please, no, because that would just be so obvious and so just not a twist. And then they went that route, and I was like, okay. And it undermined the entire film, because the whole film, these characters are trying to stop the alien from getting to Earth, and it ultimately ends up on Earth. It was like, really? You may as well just shot it straight down to Earth at the very first scene. Oh, look, we've got an alien. Oh, let's send it down to Earth. That may as well just done that. That's basically what we just basically got, a long, extended, kind of stupid, idiotic version of that happening. Instead of like them just sending it straight down to Earth, they ended up getting themselves all killed, and then it ended up going down to Earth. It was like, what the hell was the point of this entire film? It was basically just some stupid astronauts get themselves killed, and then they send an alien down to Earth. Jake Gyllenhaal's character was kind of like the only character, apart from maybe Rebecca Ferguson, but Jake Gyllenhaal's character is like the only guy in this film that's making kind of logical, kind of straightforward thinking, sensible decisions throughout this film. He's like the only one that's not making stupid, idiotic decisions. And then they even undermine his character at the end, and even make him look stupid by the whole kind of they've got to do the simplest thing. One pod's going to get away into deep space with the alien, the other one's going down to Earth, and somehow they end up switching places, and one gets taken down to Earth and the other gets sucked out into space. I'm like, oh my god, they're professional astronauts, and I get the fact that chaos is going down, but that was like the simplest thing, and they even managed to muck that up. I'm like, okay, so that's basically my rant on Life over. You may think I hate this film. I don't hate this film. I think it was competently made. I did like the film, kind of, in places. There are some things I did like about this film. I love the look of the creature. I love the kind of sci-fi horror vibe. I like the fact that it was harkening back to Alien in a way, even though it, it made me realise how good Alien actually is. When I came out of this film, like, now I realise what makes Aliens so great. They're not making stupid, idiotic choices in that film. In Alien, the first thing Ripley does is like, no, we're not letting it on board the ship. Of course, everyone goes against her, and she's not the highest rank, so they end up bringing John Hurt on board. But from the get-go, Ripley's making sensible, logical decisions. In this film, everyone's just completely stupid and idiotic. Like I said, I didn't hate this film. I don't think it was terrible, but it really let me down, because I was hoping to be pleasantly surprised, and I was hoping to enjoy myself. But as I said, at every given opportunity, these characters are making stupid, idiotic choices that kept just sucking me out of the film, to the point where I couldn't enjoy it, and I couldn't get on board with it. So in the end, guys, Life was a real disappointment for me. Not a terrible film, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It wasn't anywhere near as good as I think it could have been. There were some really cool ideas there. It had a lot of potential, but it was just very poorly executed, in my opinion. So in the end, guys, it's with regret. I've got to give Life 2 stars. I could probably give this 3 stars at a push, but there was so much that really annoyed me and bugged me with this film. I can't give it a positive rating. And when I say 3 stars, I'm saying that I like the film and I think it's good. I don't think it was a terrible film, but it did let me down, and it was a real big disappointment for me, unfortunately. So there we go, guys. That wraps up my review of Life. Have you seen the film yet? And if so, what do you think about it? Did the problems of the film bug you as much, or did you actually really enjoy this film? I'd love to know what you think in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this and you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.